If you don't want to end up like everyone else, you have to do what most people refuse to do. And more importantly, you have to stop doing the things that quietly keep them poor. That isn't motivational talk, that's a warning. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He believed men are not ruined by bad luck, but by repeating the same mistakes while convincing themselves they are being intelligent. This video isn't about getting rich quickly. It's about the 7 things you must avoid if you actually want to become wealthy. Not the obvious mistakes everyone talks about, the subtle ones, the respectable ones, the habits that look normal, feel safe, and slowly kill your future. I first heard a version of this lesson in my early 20s. From someone who had already escaped that trap. It stayed with me because once you see it everywhere. Talented people stuck, hardworking people broke, smart people chasing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Most people aren't poor because they lack opportunity. They're poor because they misunderstand power. Money feels like power. It looks like power. But early on, it isn't. Not if you don't know what to avoid first. Let me paint you a simple picture. Imagine you land a well-paid job straight out of school. Nothing glamorous but stable. The paycheck arrives every 2 weeks like clockwork. Your bank balance grows. Your parents relax. Your friends quietly envy you. On the surface, you're winning. But something subtle happens over time. Your income plateaus. Your days become predictable. You trade hours for money, and the trade never really improves. That is path A, comfortable, respected, trapped. Now imagine the opposite. A job that barely covers rent, long hours, a steep learning curve. People around you think you're reckless. Your parents question your choices. Some months are genuinely stressful. But every year, your capacity grows. Your value compounds. Your ceiling keeps moving higher. That is path B. And every self-made wealthy person I've studied, met, or learned from eventually took that path, even if it didn't look that way from the outside. The difference between these paths isn't luck, it's priorities. Path A prioritizes money early, Path B prioritizes skills, and eventually, equity. Machiavelli would say, one path seeks immediate reward, the other seeks future control, and control is the real currency. I'll make this personal. In my late teens, I had no impressive credentials, no trust fund, no safety net. What I did have were options. Several job offers came my way. Some paid more, some looked better on paper, and choosing between them taught me the first lesson most people learn too late. I chose the option that taught me how things were actually built. Low pay, high friction, high learning. At the time, it didn't feel strategic. It felt necessary. But those skills followed me for decades. I've seen the same pattern repeat in the US tech world. Early employees at companies like Airbnb or Stripe often accepted modest salaries in exchange for learning and ownership. Years later, those skills and that equity changed their lives. Machiavelli wrote that a man who relies on the arms of others will always be vulnerable. Skills are your arms. When you stack them, you become harder to replace, harder to ignore, and harder to control. I think of skills as a personal arsenal. Each job, each project adds another weapon. Over time, you stop asking, how do I make money? And start asking, where do I apply my leverage? That shift changes everything. Today, some of the most valuable skills are digital, writing that persuades, video that holds attention, code that automates, data that reveals patterns. There is a massive shortage of people who are actually good at these things, not people who dabble, people who deliver. The competition online looks fierce, but most of it is noise. Mastery still stands out. Then there's equity. Equity is ownership. It's the difference between getting paid once and getting paid repeatedly. You earn it by starting something, by negotiating for it when you're genuinely valuable, or by buying it once you understand what you're buying. But here's what most people miss. Equity is never given to potential, it's given to proof. Machiavelli understood this. When he wrote that rewards follow demonstrated value, not promises. I've watched skilled operators in US-based manufacturing firms quietly negotiate profit shares after years of making themselves indispensable. I've seen early hires in logistics startups accept tiny ownership stakes that later outperformed any salary they could have earned elsewhere. None of this happens by accident. It happens because they focused on becoming worthy of equity before asking for it. The biggest mistake people make is obsessing over money itself. The irony is brutal. The more you chase money directly, the less of it you tend to keep. Skills and equity attract money as a consequence. Money chased as a goal tends to slip through your fingers. That trap is everywhere. Before we move on, pause and reflect. What are you working for right now? Just a paycheck or something that compounds? If this resonates, type skills first in the comments. And if you want to join a growing community of men who think long-term, who value leverage over noise, and who are serious about building real wealth, subscribe to the channel, because the next illusion is even more dangerous. It's the one that convinces people they're rich long before they actually are. Fake wealth, lifestyle traps, and the cost of looking successful. Once you understand that money isn't the goal, the next trap becomes obvious. And it's seductive, because it doesn't just promise comfort, it promises status. Picture it: bright sun, a luxury city, a Ferrari that turns heads at every stoplight. You step out wearing clothes that signal success. Before you say a word, the bill arrives at dinner, and you don't flinch. That image feels powerful, it feels enviable. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. Machiavelli warned that appearances often matter more than reality, because most men judge with their eyes, not their hands. They see, but they do not feel the cost. Modern culture took that insight and weaponized it. Social media didn't invent fake wealth, but it perfected its distribution. Today, you can rent success for a weekend, lease the Lamborghini, finance the Rolex, post the photo, collect the admiration, then quietly go home to anxiety and debt. Here's the truth. Most people avoid. A large percentage of people living visibly successful lives are financially fragile. I've seen this firsthand in major US cities. Young professionals earning six figures, driving cars that consume half their income. Entrepreneurs flying business class on credit, hoping the next deal closes. Before the statement arrives, it looks impressive. It feels impressive. But it's built on sand. You don't need statistics to sense it. You can hear it in the desperation behind the flex, the constant posting, the need to be seen. Machiavelli would call this a failure of timing, displaying power before it is secure, invites envy, pressure, and collapse. True power moves quietly until it cannot be challenged. Look at genuinely wealthy families in the US, not influencers, owners, the ones who built regional logistics companies, boring software firms, industrial suppliers. You wouldn't recognize them on the street. They drive ordinary cars. They live below what they could afford. But they own assets that generate cash whether they show up or not. That is the difference between being rich and looking rich. Old money cultures understand this. Understatement isn't humility, it's strategy. Because when you spend heavily on depreciating symbols early, you're not signaling strength. You're revealing insecurity and draining the very capital that was supposed to buy you freedom. You lock yourself into needing income just to maintain an image. You become a prisoner of your own lifestyle. Machiavelli would say you've made yourself dependent, and dependency is weakness. The early phase of wealth building is not glamorous. It's repetitive, it's restrained, and it often feels unfair. When you compare yourself to others, that's why so many people fail here. They mistake discomfort for failure and comfort for success. In reality, it's often the reverse. I once met a small business owner in the Midwest who ran a logistics operation. Most people would find painfully dull. No flashy branding, no social presence. He reinvested nearly everything for over a decade, while others upgraded cars and houses. He upgraded systems and contracts. When a larger firm acquired his company, the payout wasn't life-changing because of luck. It was life-changing because of patience. This is where assets come in. Assets don't impress strangers at dinner. They don't get likes. But they do something far more important. They grow. Stocks, equity in businesses, real estate, intellectual property. These things work while you sleep. They turn time into an ally instead of an enemy. And once they reach a certain scale, they buy you freedom. Not just financial freedom, psychological freedom. Here's the paradox. Once you've built real wealth, you can afford luxury without it owning you. You can enjoy it without needing it. That's the moment luxury becomes a choice, not a crutch. Machiavelli would approve of this restraint. He believed those who master themselves before indulging the world are the ones who last. Most people try to skip this phase. They want the reward without the discipline, the image without the foundation. And they pay for it later, often quietly, often painfully. The bill always arrives, it just arrives late. Before we move forward, check yourself, honestly. Are you building or are you performing? Are your purchases expanding your future or shrinking it? If this hit home, type delay or discipline. In the comments, one word is enough. Let it lock the idea in. Leverage through people, focus, and ego death. Even if you avoid chasing money and resist the temptation of fake wealth, another trap waits for you. It's quieter, more respectable, and just as lethal. The belief that you have to do everything yourself, that real success is a solo mission. Machiavelli would call this a misunderstanding of power. Power has never been about isolation. It's about positioning. No one who has built something meaningful did it alone, not in war, not in politics, not in business. Yet many men cling to the idea that asking for help, partnering, or relying on others diminishes them. In reality, it's the opposite. Refusing leverage is the fastest way to stay small. Look closely at any major success story, and you'll find a network beneath it. Take the early tech boom in the United States. People love to reduce it to lone geniuses. But behind every so-called genius was a circle. Early PayPal employees didn't just cash out bar. Hey, reinvested in each other. Hey, shared knowledge.br. Hey, open doors bar. Hat network effect created companies bar. Hat shaped entire industries. Machiavelli understood this dynamic bar long before venture capital existed. E wrote that strength lies not only in one's own forces bar, ut in the alliances one cultivates. How you might think bar, I'm not trying to build a billion-dollar company bar. In DBR, he principle still applies. Average exists at every level. BR, especially where generations overlap. Right now, there's a quiet opportunity bar. Ost people ignore. Any established business owners bar. Yield their companies before the digital world took over. Hey, know their craft. Hey, know their customers. Ut, they are lost bar. Hen it comes to modern systems. BR, automation, online operations bar, digital workflows. Hey, don't need vision.br. Hey, need translators bar. Hats where you come in. F, you can bridge that gap. O, you become valuable very quickly. I've seen young operators in the USBR orc into small manufacturing firms. Ervis businesses, bar, Amelie owned distributors, bar, ND transform operations bar, imply by implementing modern tools and processes. Hey, didn't own the business at first, a bar. UT, they own the solution bar. ND, ownership of the solution bar, needs to leverage. Machiavelli advised that the wise man aches himself necessary bar, OT loud bar, OT flashy bar, necessary. Hat principle hasn't aged a day bar. UT leverage isn't only about people bar. T's also about focus. This is where many intelligent, motivated men sabotage themselves bar. Hey, consume too much bar. Ooh, many opinions. Ooh, many strategies bar. Ooh, many paths bar. One has advice bar. One has a framework bar. One claims certainty. The result isn't clarity bar. T's paralysis bar. Our mind was not design. Ed. To hold 100 competing futures at once. When inputs multiply, action dies. This is cognitive overload, and it masquerades as productivity. You feel busy, you feel informed, but nothing moves. The solution is deceptively simple. Start with a destination, not a detailed map, just a direction, then work backward. Filter everything through that lens. If an input doesn't move you closer, it's noise. Machiavelli would call this economy of force. You don't deploy resources everywhere, you deploy them where they matter. Most people do the opposite. They listen to everyone and commit to no one. They confuse exposure with progress. The discipline to ignore is just as important as the discipline to learn. And this is where ego enters the room. Ego loves shortcuts. Ego hates repetition. Ego wants the highlight reel, without the boring work. Arrogant people rarely think of themselves as arrogant. They think they're efficient. They skip ahead. They skim. They assume. And in doing so, they miss the substance that actually compounds. True wealth requires humility, not the performative kind, the practical kind. The kind that says, there are people who know things I don't, and I'm willing to listen. Machiavelli respected this form of humility. He warned that pride blinds men to threats and opportunities alike. There's a principle I return to often. What you know is visible, what you don't know is vast. Like an iceberg, most of the danger and most of the value sits below the surface. The moment you believe you've arrived, you stop descending, and growth stops with you. I've watched talented people stall for years because they refuse to be taught, and I've watched quieter, less flashy individuals surpass them simply by staying teachable. Ego doesn't announce itself as a villain, it whispers that you're already ahead. So ask yourself honestly, are you building leverage or trying to prove something? Are you filtering inputs or drowning in them? Are you learning or performing confidence? If this section made you uncomfortable, that's a good sign. Type leverage or focus in the comments. One word. Nothing more. Because there's one final habit that decides whether everything you've built expands or collapses in on itself. Responsibility, expansion, and escaping the comfort prison. If everything we've discussed so far comes down to one decision, it's this. Do you take responsibility or do you look for an excuse? That single habit determines whether skills turn into leverage, whether leverage turns into wealth, and whether wealth turns into freedom. Machiavelli was brutally clear on this. He believed men fail not because fortune is cruel, but because they refuse to confront themselves honestly. There's an old proverb that captures this perfectly. The man who blames others has a long road ahead. The man who blames himself is halfway there. The man who blames no one has already arrived. Think about that. Most people never leave the first stage. They carry a magnifying glass, scanning the world for reasons why things aren't their fault. The economy, the system, their boss, their upbringing, their timing. The magnifying glass feels comforting. It lets you explain failure without changing behavior, but it also keeps you powerless. Every excuse hands control to something outside of you. Machiavelli would say, you've surrendered your agency, and once agency is gone, so is power. The alternative is the mirror. The mirror is uncomfortable. It forces you to confront what you could have done differently, not in a self-hating way, but in a strategic one. When something goes wrong, the question isn't who failed me. It's what do I adjust? That mindset compounds faster than any investment. I've seen this play out across decades. Two people face the same setback. One says the system is rigged and waits for conditions to change. The other adapts, learns, repositions. 10 years later, they live in completely different worlds. Not because of luck, because of response, but responsibility alone isn't enough. You can own everything and still stay stuck. If you refuse to grow, that's where the final trap appears, staying static. The comfort zone. It looks safe, predictable, controlled, but look closer. There are no gaps in it, no exits. It's a prison, built from routine and fear. Most people don't feel trapped because the walls are soft, bills get paid, life is tolerable. But tolerable is dangerous. Studies show a huge percentage of people fear regret later in life, yet still refuse to step into discomfort now. Machiavelli would call this a failure of courage, not bravery in battle, bravery in choice. Growth has always required risk, not reckless risk, calculated expansion. You stretch the boundary, you stabilize, then you stretch again. That's how power accumulates. I learned this early, long before I could articulate it. Traditional paths never fit me. Sitting in classrooms, memo, rising information. I couldn't apply. Felt like slow suffocation. So I stepped sideways into work that demanded my hands and my full attention. That decision expanded my world. And when that became familiar, I pushed again. Side projects, new responsibilities, uncomfortable environments. Each expansion rewired my ceiling. And that is how you escape the comfort prison. Not all at once, but by refusing to stay where growth has stopped. Experiments, ventures that might fail. Some did, some didn't. Each one widened the circle. Then came the biggest leap, starting a business with borrowed money. High risk, high responsibility, but also high growth. That single decision reshaped my trajectory. Years later, when the business was stable, something interesting happened. Comfort crept back in. The bank was happy. My family was secure on paper. I had won. But internally, something went quiet. Complacency is subtle like that. It doesn't scream, it whispers. You've done enough. Machiavelli warned that stability can weaken men faster than adversity. So I expanded again. New medium, new audience, new discomfort. Sharing ideas publicly later in life wasn't easy, but it was necessary, not for money, for growth, for relevance, for meaning. Every expansion reopened possibilities I didn't know existed. Here's the truth most people miss. There is no final comfort zone. There is no permanent arrival. The space you can grow into is infinite, but only if you claim it. If you stop pushing the boundary, life doesn't stand still. It shrinks around you. Responsibility gives you control. Expansion gives you momentum. Together, they create a life that compounds instead of decays. So ask yourself, one last time, where are you blaming? Where are you staying safe? When you should be stretching? And what would happen if you took one step beyond what feels comfortable? If this final part resonated, type mirror or expand in the comments. One word, let it mark a decision. And if you want to join a growing community of men who reject excuses, who value long-term power over short-term comfort, and who are serious about building wealth with discipline and clarity, subscribe to the channel now. This isn't about getting rich quickly. It's about becoming someone who cannot be kept small.